Software has become integral to the machining world, and it's becoming more so by the day. So it's really cool here on Manufacturing Talks today to have Russ Bukowski. He is the president of Mastercam, and you want to talk about integral to machining. Mastercam is the CAD-CAM solution provider, software solutions for the machining world. So Russ is here to talk all about what they do and stuff like workforce development and where the company's headed. So it's going to be a great show today. Stay tuned. Russ Bukowski is here with us on Manufacturing Talks.
Welcome to Manufacturing Talks with Jim Vinosky. Industry has a million cool stories, and Jim talks to the movers and shakers who are making them happen. Let's dive in.
Russ, welcome to Manufacturing Talks.
Jim, thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for being on. This is going to be a great show. Here to talk about all things Mastercam, which is huge. So we'll get rolling on that here in a minute. But before we do, why don't you just tell us a little about your background, how you got doing what you're doing today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually started with Mastercam 15 years ago. But if we go way back to the early part of my career, got my start in a small manufacturing facility. Started sweeping floors as many of us do. Worked my way up to assembly and then manual deburring, and finished my time with them on a manual lathe machine. So have enough appreciation for what the manufacturing shop floor is like. And I grew up around manufacturing. My father worked for a local manufacturer his whole life, and got to see the facility that he worked at. And I've always had an appreciation for bringing things to life. And I think that's at the heart of what manufacturing is bringing ideas to life. But when I was in high school, I actually took a slightly different path and focused more on computer science. I went to a vocational high school for 4 years of computer science and really focused on bringing digital ideas to life. And that's what led me into my career at Mastercam, where I originally came in as the first user experience designer of the software, helping Mastercam shift from our what was our X platform at the time. Mastercam X5 was the major release when I started on board, and then moved into our now annual release cycle, and re-envisioned the way that Mastercam presents itself to users, trying to be a more user-friendly software, trying to allow students to learn the software much more quickly. And so I spent many years working on the product side of Mastercam, getting an appreciation for the product and its long, rich history. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, I actually was asked to shift over into the strategy side of the business, which is something I also enjoy, and started going down the path of running our mergers and acquisitions team. This year, we acquired 8 businesses in the first quarter. So we've been very busy. Primarily, we have. Yeah, primarily focused on vertically integrating our sales and support channel so we can get closer to our customers, right? Because that's something Mastercam's always been a little bit at arm's length from our customers, because we've worked for a very, very great global reseller channel. But now we're trying to bring that relationship closer to us at corporate. And then December of last year, took over as the interim president and landed the full-time role back in April. And ever since, I've been leading the Mastercam organization. And again, I bring that intersection that I have of manufacturing and product knowledge, strategic knowledge, and then a focus on the customers. And so I try to look at all 3 of those areas as we're growing the organization.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. I mean, that part about having the education in computer science makes sense. For those maybe not familiar with Mastercam, can you do more of a deep dive into what it is Mastercam does for a living?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, Jim. My parents still ask me that every day. But at the heart of it, Mastercam is a software product that enables manufacturers to bring their ideas to life. And so we always say our mission is to create software and solutions that solve the world's manufacturing challenges. And that's what we're looking to do. And obviously we play in the digital space. But Mastercam was founded back in 1983 as a privately held family business, run initially by three brothers. And then as the years went on, Mark Summers, who was the president of the business, brought his daughter Megan in, and she became the president. And she was one of the people that was a big proponent for really focusing on that user experience that I mentioned earlier, making the software, easier to acquire, easier to learn for people. And throughout the years, the business has always been very people focused, not only on the internal people, but the relationships we maintain with our resellers and with our customers. And so Mastercam is a CAD-CAM package, computer-aided design, computer-aided manufacturing, that lets customers design any part that they want and then actually program that part and send it to a CNC machine on the shop floor. We are in shops that support a single machine. I've visited customers who have had a single Haas VF2 in their garage to multinationals that have 7 or 8 different manufacturing facilities that are running lights out, completely autonomous. And so Mastercam is at the heart of manufacturing as far as enabling people to really get their designs out there in a way that they can bring to life. And for me, that's the future of manufacturing, is people want to bring things to life. And I'm sure we'll get into the skills gap and some of those things happening in manufacturing. But when I talk to young people these days, what they're really excited about is they want to make something, right? They want to bring something to life. And for me, that's what Mastercam has always been about in my 15 years here, is enabling people to bring things to life.
Yeah. And, you're preaching to the choir there. I've been in manufacturing my whole career, and I think it's been such a disservice to our country that we've actually denigrated making and doing in the real world that manufacturing represents. What you guys really represent, though, when you talk about the future of manufacturing, is it's so much about automating the things that used to be the dull, dirty, dark parts of manufacturing, right?
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things that I always tell my team when we walk around shop floors is I said, hey, take an eye at people's desks, and do they have the machinery's handbook on their desk or not, right? And that gives you a little bit of insight into the type of customer you're talking with, because we're not seeing people that understand the material science and the feeds and speeds like the 40-year veterans. And we know that we're running out of the 40-year veterans in the field. And so we're trying to find ways to automate that knowledge that people used to hone that craftsmanship. And you could go to somebody in the shop and say, hey, what material are you running and what feeds and speeds are you running? They could tell you why. And you and I, Jim, we know that machinists live by listening to their machine tools, right? And hearing what's going on. And we're losing that connection with some of the people that are coming out of programs, because they're not learning the manufacturing basics anymore. They're moving right into the more advanced, how do I drive the machine? How do I create? And so Mastercam is trying to bridge that gap between that I guess the craft of manufacturing with the modern age technology and the computers, and trying to figure out how can we provide the same level of knowledge so people are confident running the machines, but they don't feel like they have to retain all this historical information that was so critical 20, 30, 40 years ago in the field.
One big piece that I've seen again and again is, you can document a lot of work processes, and you have to, absolutely. But there are things that you really can't write down, things that those veterans you talked about just knew, the tribal knowledge that's passed on by working closely with someone who's been at it for decades. How do you bridge that gap? How does Mastercam fill that hole that we're seeing created by the departure of our baby boomers?
Yeah, the biggest way Mastercam is focused on that right now is we just released a new feature back in July with our latest release of Mastercam 2026, which is called Mastercam Co-Pilot. and it's a AI agent that allows our users to type questions into the software and return answers. One of the big goals that we have is to include more and more of that true hands-on manufacturing knowledge, right? Which feeds and speeds would you recommend while I'm cutting, this type of material with this tool? We're working towards that future so that way the software can support people. But it's so much more than that. Our AI agent also allows you to give voice commands to Mastercam, and it can even do a good level of interpretation if you're not sure of exactly where you need to go in the software, because let's be honest, Mastercam is a complex piece of software because it does a complex task, like many tools in manufacturing are. So you can ask it, in plain English, how do you do something in Mastercam? Even if you don't know the exact right word, the AI agent will help you determine what you need to do next in the software. So we are looking at AI as a solution for bridging that gap. But part of it is going out there and collecting these centuries worth of knowledge that are out there on the shop floor and bringing them into a data set. And as you can imagine, a lot of people in manufacturing, they like to hold their cards close to their chest. They don't want to give up the secret sauce to how they've been successful manufacturing. So how do we get that data into the product to even be able to be used in the first place? That's something that we're working on today. And again, we've already seen some promising outcomes from it so far.
Is that the biggest challenge that you hear from your customers, the gap of knowledge?
Gap of knowledge is certainly a large one. What I'll say is I'll bring it up a level, and I'll say something that a lot of the customers that I speak with, and I was just at customer sites last week, automation in general. And when I say automation, there's different reasons why companies want automation. Some of them want automation to fill the skills gap. Certainly, we know there's a growing skills gap in America. There's hundreds of thousands of jobs that are not being filled because we don't have the talent. And we can talk about some of the ways Mastercam supporting that through education programs and partnering with companies that do apprenticeships, which I think is really helpful for bringing manufacturing back in the U.S. We need a strong apprenticeship program, but we also see some companies that I was at a large multinational last week talking to them. They're looking for automation in their shop, not because they're looking to reduce costs or increase profits, but because they have to run 3 shifts today. And they want all of their human labor to be on one shift. They would prefer to provide their employees with the ability to work 8 hours during the day and then be home regular hours, or regular 5 to 9 hours with their family, which I thought was a very great cause, and one that I haven't heard cited before by any of the customers I spoke with, because a lot of them are looking for, of course, efficiency improvements, productivity improvements. But this was a pretty noble thing. They said, well, we have a plan. We want our customers, our employees, we want them working 8 hours and our machines working 24 hours. But right now they need to run 3 shifts to get the utilization out of the machine. So, really interesting concept. And again, I'm seeing automation come from one person shops all the way to shops that have, 500, 600 people on their shop floor. So lots of different reasons, but automation is clearly one of the key challenges that manufacturers are facing today. Is how do they automate to fill the skills gap, to increase productivity and efficiency, and to provide a better quality of life for their employees while continuing to deliver exceptional quality to their customers.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I hadn't heard that particular take either. I've certainly heard about lights out operation, and you think about like weekends or the typical one. But it goes to something where we don't want to compete with our overseas competitors, and that's around the just doldrum work, the hands-on stuff that is the lowest paid, the least rewarding kind of stuff. We don't want to compete in that, and so to the extent we can automate and raise everyone up that level, make all our jobs skilled jobs, that's going to make America more competitive, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And as a guy who got to start, deburring parts by hand manually, I can tell you that I don't want to go back to doing that anytime soon, Jim. And Mastercam actually released a product last year called Mastercam Deburr, with that whole purpose of, deburring on the machine. So you're getting that better finish on the machine. And you're just enabling your staff then to level up their skills and focus on the more challenging problems. Because when I walk through these shops these days, it's not simple 2D or 3D prismatic parts. We're seeing much more complexity in what people are trying to accomplish, but we're also seeing a lot of our customers are buying a lot more capability on their machine tools than they actually need. So they're buying simultaneous 5-axis machines, but maybe not getting the most out of that, right? Maybe locking it into a 3+2 mode, but how can they then extend that into a simultaneous 5-axis? Well, if you can take that mundane work away from your employees to allow them to have the time to level up, you can actually get better quality parts. You can even get more productivity at the end of the day because they're thinking more creatively. So, I see a lot of opportunities for that work going, into the lights out autonomous area, allowing employees to focus on leveling up their skills.
Yeah, and it levels up the capability of the entire operation too. You can compete for other things you couldn't do before.
Exactly. And we all know that in today's climate, the cost of importing parts, where maybe they're coming from a country that has a lower cost of labor, that's the game, right? You're literally looking at saving pennies on the parts. And so how can you do that in your shop, and how can you use automation? And of course, as we have the skills gap, manufacturing professionals are becoming more and more highly compensated because the skill set just doesn't exist, so while that skills gap continues to exist, we're going to continue to see a premium paid for manufacturing professionals, especially the ones that can do the complex simultaneous 5-axis or the multi-turret mill turn operations. It really moving from operator to operator programmer in a lot of cases, where you're not just doing the job setup and loading the stock, you're actually programming the parts while something is running lights out to make more productivity for your environment.
Right. You've touched on the skilled trades gap a couple of times. You talked about apprenticeships. What are the other big hitters that you think we need to help close that, and what's Mastercam doing to get after that?
Yeah, so we have a lot of outreach programs at Mastercam that we work with. We work with a lot of universities and schools to bring awareness. I take a slightly different approach to this. As somebody who went to a vocational high school, I think a lot of it starts at home. I think we need more parents in the U.S. talking to their children about the trades. And I'll say the trades in general, or STEM in general, not just manufacturing, but HVAC careers and plumbing careers. These are very viable careers that have a lot of opportunity. And when I was growing up, that was something, again, my father was an electrician for a manufacturing facility, and, always let us know that, hey, this is a viable career if you want to go into a trade. But now what I hear, or what I've heard actually for the last 20 years, is you have to go into computer science, you have to go into finance, you have to go into these digital fields. But the challenge with that, Jim, is we're seeing that students coming out of these computer science, computer engineering courses, they're having a really difficult time finding work. And we're seeing unemployment rates encroaching upon double digits in those areas, because this was the promise, right? There was this promise 20 years ago that if you got a computer science degree, there would be work for you. But we're seeing that work starting to shift now with the rise of AI and some of these other solutions. So I always encourage people, talk to students about the trades, right? If it's manufacturing, great. If it's a different trade, great. But, some things don't go out of style. Engineering doesn't go out of style. You might be solving different problems tomorrow than you are today, but we're going to need engineers, right? And you're going to need the hands-on tradespeople to solve the problems, the boots on the ground for HVAC, electrical, plumbing, all sorts of things. So yeah, I really believe it starts at home. Having parents talk to their children about, look, you can go into finance, you can go get an MBA, you can go into computer science, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with going with that path. But we also equally need to tell people that the trades and STEM are viable careers for people. And so I'd love to see more parents, coming in and understanding what these trades are and how they can encourage their students to, learn more about the opportunities that exist there.
I couldn't agree more. It's interesting that you touch on that. I just had a guy named Zach Hansen on the show a few weeks ago. He's a multi-book author, but his most recent one's called The Trade Gap. And I thought it was going to be about the work end of things, and it totally wasn't. It was about his personal life. He's in the computer world, computer science, consultant with IBM for a lot of years. And he came out of school and got married and got a house and realized he couldn't fix anything. And he talks about just the personal value of being able to work with your hands, being able to fix something in your house yourself. And so there's absolutely that paid work end of things, but there's also just that personal development, and that I think we've denigrated just in this push to have everyone go to college and have everyone be a knowledge worker. That's all fine, but when you lose that ability and you lose that value of, to your point early on, making things, creating things in the real world or fixing things in your house, that's fundamental to who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. As my wife and I like to joke, there's nothing like a 4-figure fix for something that you can do yourself in the house, because it seems like anytime you call a tradesperson these days, you're not paying less than $1,000, whether it's, a plumbing leak or an
Yeah.
electrical issue, so having some of those hands-on skills, even if you don't go into that trade professionally, very, very valuable. I mean, still being able to change your own oil in your car can save you a lot of money. Right. And of course you get the reward of a job well done, and that always feels like you've accomplished something, because I can tell you this, Jim, I can sit at the computer for 10-12 hours some days and feel like I haven't accomplished anything. Right. So
Yeah.
going and doing something around the house actually gives you that sense of hey, I accomplished what I meant to do. So absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more on that.
I just got done restaining my deck, so I'm living the dream over here. Back on the work side trades gap, though, you've talked about what you as a company, what you're doing. I've always said that the number one fix really lies with manufacturers, though. So in your world, your corner of manufacturing, what are you seeing that the manufacturers themselves can be doing and should be doing to help close that gap?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to an experience I had over the summer. I was visiting a customer of ours in the UK in July, and they have an apprenticeship program. And when I say apprenticeship program, it's very thorough. It's a multi-year apprenticeship program where they take students who are 17, 18 years old, and they bring them into their organization and they run them through every facet of manufacturing. And of course, they start with the basics and the manual machines, but they step all the way up to running Mastercam and programming on the CNC machines. At the end of the program, there's a few things that happen, right? The one, that company has the opportunity to hire the best talent that they've then brought in to the organization. So it creates a lot of immediate benefit for their organization. Two, even if they don't hire those people, they've done a great service to the other manufacturers in the area who have now access to this talent that they wouldn't have had access to otherwise. Three, for the apprentices themselves, these are paid apprenticeships that they're coming into. And, that knowledge that they're gaining, they're being paid to learn how to be a manufacturer and a manufacturing professional. These opportunities are rare these days. Apprenticeships used to be huge back in the 60s and 70s in the US. I would love to see more of these organizations go back into apprenticeship programs where they're bringing young people in. It doesn't even have to be young people. It could be new people. Let's just say new people into manufacturing, right? Who maybe want to make a career change in their 30s or 40s, right? And learn the basics, learn the ropes. And if you prove yourself, you've got a pathway to employment that way. So I think apprenticeship programs are underutilized, especially in the US right now. Again, a lot of people have shifted more towards you have to get the college degree, but I think vocational schools, trade schools, and apprenticeships are where it's at. And I know of a lot of local manufacturers here in the Northeast in the US who are partnering with a lot of the community colleges and trade schools to say, hey, look, you train the students and we'll do job fairs. We'll offer the path to employment with you. So we're seeing some hybrid things like that, not pure apprenticeship, but more of a traditional, trade school to employment pipeline. And again, I think those types of programs, especially the programs that are giving you the hands-on experience, you can't beat that level of experience that you're getting from those programs.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. There's another element to that. There's the numbers gap that we have just with what we make today, but then there's also this trend now toward reshoring, and certainly if we can't get the people to make things we need right now, that's going to hamper our ability to reshore. So there's that piece. What are the other pieces that you see in the manufacturing world that we need to be plugging away at to reinforce and accelerate the reshoring trend?
So of course, I'll go back to education being number one, but beyond that, I think with reshoring, with the cost of materials these days, something Mastercam keeps an eye on is how do we make our customers more efficient? How do we reduce waste? How do we reduce scrap? How do we improve the tool life on their CNC machines? That's really important, because if we want to compete with overseas manufacturing, we have to be able to do it not just from a quality standpoint, but a cost standpoint as well, right? And there's some interesting studies that have been done where people have been faced with two products, one that's been made overseas, one that's been made in America, and what's that threshold that somebody will actually pay for the difference of made in America versus made overseas? And it's not as big of a delta as you would think, right? So we've got to find ways to make the manufacturing that we have in the US more competitive. And that's really where Mastercam is focused on the things that we can do every day. And we're working on some brand new technology that's going to be released next year that's going to reduce the amount of micro movements on a machine. And people don't realize it today, but every one of those micro movements, that's additional wear and tear on your machine that, we can help improve that state of. So we're focused a lot on that technology, longer tool life, less scrap, higher quality of finish off the machine, lower machine wear and tear. That's where Mastercam is focused today, and really working with a lot of customers to do benchmarks and understand, well, how are you cutting the part today? And even if we don't save time on the cycle time, are we saving time and material that they can, use later on down the road? That's how we're looking at things. Because if a machine needs to be serviced every, 1,000 hours of runtime, if we can extend that to 1,200 or 1,400 hours, that's a net benefit for that customer who can now run that machine longer before it needs any type of maintenance done on it. So that's a lot of what we're looking at, is how can we make our existing manufacturing facilities in the US more productive, more efficient, give them better tools to be able to lower the cost of their finished goods to be able to compete with manufacturers from overseas.
Yeah. Again, you're preaching to the choir. I've always said that the best sustainability projects are the ones that pay for themselves. So when you talk about efficiency, that's right up that alley. Now, you've hit on acquisitions and training and efficiency. It's not like Mastercam's been sitting on their laurels. But if you think about the next 5 years, where do you see the big opportunity? Is it all of that? Is it more? What is Mastercam headed for in the coming years?
Yeah, certainly Mastercam is going to continue to focus on developing the best CAD-CAM system in the world. That's key for our strategy, and I don't ever see that falling out of style for us, because that's what the customers demand. We are going to continue to look at that vertical integration. How can we ensure that we get closer to our customers, provide a good customer experience? But something I think maybe some people listening, maybe even some of our existing Mastercam customers aren't aware of, but Mastercam was acquired back in 2021 by Sandvik, right? Swedish tooling company. And they have a pretty large and robust digital portfolio. And I see a big opportunity is connecting that experience across the digital thread, right? How do we go from, as we call it at Mastercam, art to part, right? And that includes design, the CNC programming, the inspection, the QA, right? Bringing that total solution to customers is something I see as a huge opportunity. And, something that I'm seeing even smaller shops asking for is, right, they want better seamless connectivity from all of their tools in the shop. They want one-stop shopping. They want to call one support number at the end of the day to get all their help. So that's a huge opportunity for Mastercam and Sandvik as we move forward as more of an ecosystem of products rather than just point solutions. So that's something that I'm really excited about, because Mastercam's in a position now where we're working with this large multinational in Sandvik. We have the resources to go and do these things that we couldn't do as an independent organization for many years. So that's something I'm really excited to see the future of, and how do we bring that total seamless experience to our customers in the future.
Very cool. Excellent to hear. We're about out of time. Any closing thoughts?
I appreciate you having me on the show, Jim. I just want to say that Mastercam is a longtime supporter of manufacturing in the US and all over the world. And just want to encourage any of the listeners who are Mastercam customers or interested in Mastercam to reach out. We're always looking for feedback. You can visit us on mastercam.com to learn more. You can also visit our forums and provide insights and feedback about what they need as manufacturers, so we can build the best products possible for them.
Good deal. I'll have your link in the show description so folks can go right there. Russ Bukowski, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Jim.
So long. What was that, cool or what? I just loved how Russ and Mastercam kind of hit on all those points that we talk about all the time here on the show. And we're obviously of like minds when it comes to the trade gap and reshoring and reindustrialization and just the cool of manufacturing. So loved it, but always look into the future. And if you love today's show too, then you're just going to absolutely go bonkers for next week, because I've got Tony Gunn. He is the international voice of manufacturing and machining, and I can't think of a better advocate out there. So tune in next Tuesday, because that show will rock your world. Tony Gunn's going to be here next Tuesday here on Manufacturing Talks. In the meantime, I'm Jim Vinoski signing off. So long.
Thanks for tuning in to Manufacturing Talks with Jim Vinoski. Watch for new episodes dropping every Tuesday. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.